You know what? Today is one of those days. You know, one of those fall days where it's dark and dreary outside. It's really just cold and damp and, well, you don't want to do much of anything. You might even just want to stay inside and not do much of anything at all. You know, kind of start the fireplace if you have one, turn the heater on, whatever it is, get under a nice warm blanket. It's one of those cold, wet, damp, rainy fall days. It's just, well, it's kind of fun for certain aspects, but then again, you're not getting much done. It kind of reminds me of something that I've never done yet. I mean, to the point where I've never made the video yet. Long ago, years ago, I started making videos on YouTube, but I started making more like survival videos, you know, how to start a fire, how to chop up firewood, how to, well, wild edible plants that you can probably find in your backyard, things to that nature. I used to do videos like that, but I never made a video on water. And today would have been a great day if it was raining like a little bit more, maybe just like a nice heavy downpour. But what I mean is I never did a video on water is, well, you can't just drink water out of a creek or a river or a stream. You got to do something to that water first to make it safe to drink. And throughout all my videos, well, I never really discussed that topic. I mean, there's plenty of videos out there discussing it, but really just the bare bones of it is you can't drink the water straight from the stream. There could be who knows what animal crapped in that stream, you know, upstream, or what animal died in that stream upstream. You don't know what's in the water. So you want to filter it with something first. You want to filter it with, like, you know, some type of fabric or something like that first. And then at the very least, boil the water. Kill anything that's inside of there. It's going to kill like 99 point whatever % of whatever's in there. You don't want to get like Giardia, raccoon fever, whatever it's called. You don't want to get it. You're just sick. It's not fun. And, you know, there's certain stuff that you just don't want to be drinking. And there's a whole ton of stuff that I'm not going to go over. The point is, don't drink it. Make sure you boil it first, at the very least. Now, there are other options, too, that you can do. Other things you want to think about, too, like during the winter, you know, melt down ice instead of snow, just because, well, you're going to get more water out of it. It's going to use up a little less fuel that you may not have. And just the same, if you dig a hole next to a water source and let it filter through there, it should be good, but I would still prefer boiling that. There's different ways of using the sun to purify your water, so that's another thing to keep in mind too. If the water is coming out of a tree in the form of sap, it's safe to drink. It's already filtered out for you. If you collect rainwater, you should be pretty safe. Unless you're in an environment where the rainwater is kind of hazardous, but you probably know that to begin with. But if you're collecting rainwater and you're collecting it maybe from your roof or something like that, it's a good idea to filter it first. And there's different filters too, where you can do like a layer of sand or a layer of rocks and then charcoal and then sand and rocks and charcoal, and you keep alternating between them and you let all that water seep down through that. It's going to filter out a lot, and then go ahead and boil that water just to be safe. I mean, they say too, sometimes your tap water, you have to boil it. Sometimes they'll say that your tap water is contaminated and you should boil it. I don't think it's ever happened here, but I know it's happened. I mean, you just think about all these natural disasters. If you have, especially a hurricane or an earthquake or a tornado or whatever natural disaster come through your area, your drinking water might be compromised. Yeah, sure, you might have some water coming in, but you know what? You don't know what's happened and what got into that water, so it might be compromised. That might be a situation where you're told to boil the water first before you drink it. You got to keep this stuff in mind, and guess what? If you don't have water, it's going to be kind of hard to... It's simple things like that where it's like, oh, wait a minute, there's a natural disaster that came through. I still have my house, but I would call them food lines, meaning that the route the semi-trucks take to get those groceries and get that food to your local supermarket, those lines are cut off. So now everything in your supermarket is gone and there's nothing left and there's no way to get more product in. And if you're in an area where, well, you don't have a farm and there's no other food source for you, guess what? Your food is kind of limited to whatever you have in your house or pantry. So kind of stock up and be prepared. At the very least for, I would say, 2-3 weeks, just in case something like this happens. I mean, if you go back to when we had that 6 feet of snow here, we were stuck in this house for a week. And, you know, food lines could have been cut off. They didn't because the snow ban was pretty localized to we just got a ton of snow dumped on us, and then like down the street, a couple miles away, there was nothing. There was grass on the ground, no snow. But those food lines could have been compromised, and everything on the store shelves could have been gone, and there'd be nothing left. And what do? Something as simple as food and water. You just don't think about it. You take everything for granted. It's something I was thinking about today as the rain was falling, I mean, I'm kind of getting off on tangents here on other topics and subjects that we could talk about further later. This is just kind of, get you thinking a little bit, especially as, at least in my area, we're approaching the winter months where, yeah, you could be snowed in for a week and not be able to get out or have anybody bring anything to you, and you're going to be stuck. At the very least, there's snow outside, so if you have a way to melt that snow, well, you got some sort of water. But if you run out of food, you run out of food. And what do they say? 3 days without water and you're dead. 3 weeks without food and you're dead. 3 minutes without oxygen, you're dead. So it's kind of silly to be thinking survival mode in this day and age, but you know what? It's kind of smart to be thinking that way too. There's a lot of resources and skills that we have lost over the years that unless you're into that stuff, unless you're into camping and stuff, you're probably not going to get it back. If the power goes out in my house, well, we kind of run out of heat. Yeah, you might have gas heat, but that's all controlled electronically. And I honestly don't think there's any override on it to where it'll run for you without electronics. I don't think they make it that way. Now granted, I myself, I have a wood burning stove that I could burn wood in. And we used to when we had the old furnace, but now with the new furnace, I just don't need all that stuff gunking up the new furnace and potentially, I mean, my dad with the old furnace kind of rigged it so that the fan would kick on as soon as the wood burning stove got hot enough, and that there would be a fan in there that would kick on. He kind of made it a cool little system. And I'm not going to rewire the new furnace to get that hooked up to the system that he made. At the very least, I'll burn wood in the wood burning stove. It'll heat the basement up, keep the pipes from freezing, and at least warm the basement up. And if we had a huddle in the basement, we'd be nice and dry, nice and warm, and we wouldn't have to worry about much. But that'll also heat. Heat'll trickle up through the house. So anyways, it's just things to think about. Could you make a fire if you needed to? Not that you need to be making a fire in your house, but if you were stuck in your house and you didn't have water you could drink, could you go outside and make a fire to boil that water so that you could drink water? You know what I mean? It's things to think about like that. It's like, well, yeah, I know I can now because, well, I made videos on it. I researched it and I perfected my skills with it. But what can you do? I mean, what things do you need to be thinking about like that? Just even if you're in a winter area like this, people take that for granted too. Do you go and make a winter car kit for your car every season? I know I do. I got things in there like tow ropes. I got shovels in there. I got this wire grate that I put in there so it gives me some traction if I need to, well, get out from being unstuck. I have winter tires now, which I've never had before. I never even knew anyone that had winter tires before, and that's crazy for the location that I live in. And do you put extra blankets in your car so that if you did get stuck somewhere, at least you'd be warm? Do you keep those emergency Mylar blankets in your car that are like $1? I mean, it's things like that, simple things. I don't know how much people do, but it's something to think about. Do you keep extra water in your car during the winter months so that you do have something? There's a lot going on right now. There's wildfires going on. There's hurricanes going on like crazy. There's tornadoes. There's a lot going on, and I don't have to worry about any of that here. I mean, I got family members that have to deal with stuff like that, well, I worry about them. But at least here, all I have to worry about is the snow. It's a different world living in different parts of the other. It's a different experience living in other parts of the world. That's what I want to say. Even in other parts of, well, the USA, it's a whole different experience. A lot of different things you have to worry about. I mean, if you live, in the desert and the heat and stuff, you really have to think about water. And there's times when there's drought and stuff, you have to conserve water. That's something I'm probably never going to experience here. But then again, if the infrastructure in place goes down, what are you going to do? If the water's not coming through my pipes because something broke and they can't fix it, what are you going to do? Do I have enough bottled water in my pantry to last? Probably not long enough. So at the very least, I know how to collect and make that water that I collected safe to drink. It's just, man, zombie apocalypse. If you get in that mindset, I mean, not that a zombie apocalypse is actually gonna happen. And I'm not saying get your shovel out and start digging and making that bunker. But if you get in that mindset of like zombie apocalypse survival mode, it kind of opens the door up to other things to think about. Where it is just those simple things, the things we need to actually live. Well, do you have the knowledge and skills to get that stuff? Do you have enough knowledge to hunt and actually get some food, or know that there's some food around your area that you could gather, vegetable wise and stuff? Or just, do you have that knowledge that, oh wait, if there's no water and it's a certain time of year, I can get sap from this tree and I can drink that, and at least that's gonna, give me some sugar and stuff like that, and it's gonna give me water. Or I can eat these cattails and at least get some starch and energy from it and such. Or those walnuts hanging on that tree that I never knew were walnuts. I could eat those. It's just, it really opens your eyes up to the fact that if the infrastructures that are in place, your food lines and everything else that's distributed to you, if all that stuff went away, even for a week, it could be a very tough week. And if it's a big natural disaster, well, it could be a long, long while before things get back to normal. I think I've really gotten off topic of when the vlog started, so I'm going to end it kind of around here. And, well, hopefully I made you think just a little bit that maybe you should look into some other things and look into and just think about, what if something happened? Would you be prepared? It's a tough question. So you know what? I'm going to see you on the next one.